Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're stepping into slightly different territory. We're exploring stories where the answers, well, they just aren't there. And the questions have lingered for years, even decades.
Exactly.
We're doing a deep dive into a set of really unsettling, unsolved mysteries. And they all share one specific kind of iconic date, Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
You know, October 31st, it usually makes you think of trick-or-treating, costumes, maybe some lighthearted fun.
Right, the usual stuff.
But for some families, tragically, it became the backdrop for these chilling disappearances, these murders that, well, even today, they remain unsolved.
Still cold cases.
So our mission here in this deep dive is to carefully unpack these cases, drawing from the source material you've shared. We want to pull out the most haunting facts, the questions that just won't go away, and maybe some deeper insights these cases offer.
It's less about finding new answers, perhaps, and more about understanding the enduring mystery.
Yes, exactly. Unlike some of our dives, this one leans into that suspense, that mystery, but always with the respect these serious events demand. Okay, let's begin.
Let's start.
Our first case takes us to Fort Dodge, Iowa. It's Halloween night, 1982. We have Marvin Brandland, he was 69, and his wife, Ethel. They're at home doing what so many people do, handing out candy to trick-or-treaters.
Just a normal Halloween evening.
Seems like it, until there's a knock at the door, and standing there is this figure wearing a mask. But it's not, a fancy store-bought one. It's just a pillowcase with eye holes cut out.
Old school almost.
Right. And Marvin, apparently his first thought was, okay, this is just a prank, maybe a neighbor pulling a joke.
Understandable reaction, maybe.
But then the person speaks, trick or treat, give me your money or I'll shoot. Suddenly, it's not a prank anymore.
Chilling.
Marvin, maybe still not quite believing it, reaches out, tries to pull off the man's mask. The intruder resists, pushes inside the house, actually pulls out a gun, then demands they take him to the basement, where they supposedly had a safe.
And that detail is crucial, isn't it?
It really is, because very few people actually knew about that safe. It made Marvin think, this must be someone we know, someone close.
Someone familiar with their home, their life.
As the masked man is guiding them towards the basement, Marvin makes a move. A desperate one, probably. He lunges for the gun.
Oh, no.
And that's when the intruder fires, shoots Marvin in the throat. The killer then just flees. Leaves the pillowcase mask behind.
Leaves the key piece of evidence.
Exactly. And just adding to the tragedy, Ethel, his wife, she was so traumatized by seeing her husband murdered, she actually passed away just a few months later. So what happened? You have this mask, this very specific clue. How does it remain unsolved?
Well, that's where the frustration of cold cases really comes in. Years later, there was a development. An acquaintance of the family apparently bragged about, committing the murder.
Right. So a potential suspect.
A potential suspect, yes. And this lead prompted investigators to finally conduct DNA testing on that pillowcase mask. But here's the problem. The technology back then, combined with how evidence degrades over time, there just wasn't enough usable genetic material left on the mask for a conclusive test.
Ah, so close, but not quite enough.
Exactly. Even with someone potentially admitting to it, without that definitive DNA link, Marvin Brandland's murder is still officially unsolved.
Yeah.
It really shows how even with physical evidence, sometimes science just can't bridge that gap, leaving families without that final answer.
It's heartbreaking. Okay, from that awful home invasion, let's shift gears. We're moving from a quiet home to the busy nightlife of a city. Another disappearance, another cold trail. This is Minneapolis, Halloween night 2002.
Okay.
We have Chris Jenkins. He's a student at the University of Minnesota out with his friends. They end up at a place called the Lone Tree Bar and Grill. Around 10:30 p.m., Chris gets kicked out by security, banned from coming back in.
Okay, so he's separated from his friends.
Yes. And that's the last time anyone reported seeing him alive, just vanished after leaving the bar. And apparently that area, especially late at night for someone alone, it had a bit of a reputation.
Not the safest place to be by yourself.
No. Chris's family, obviously desperate, they hire a private investigator. And this PI finds a witness, someone who claims they saw a large group of men attacking a lone person right across the street from the bar that same night.
Wow. Okay, that's significant.
It gets stranger. They brought in scent tracking dogs, 2 different dogs on 2 separate occasions. Both dogs picked up Chris's scent right there on the sidewalk where the alleged attack happened.
Both led to the same spot.
Both led to the exact same spot inside a parking garage right next door. And there they found a few drops of blood and a single red feather. Possibly from his costume, maybe? But that's where the trail died. just stopped cold in that garage.
So what happened after that?
Well, the search continued, obviously, but it wasn't until 4 months later that the grim discovery was made. Chris's body was found floating in the Mississippi River.
Oh, terrible. And what makes Chris Jenkins' case even more complex and frankly unsettling is this purported connection to a wider theory.
You mean the smiley-faced killer theory?
Exactly. His death is often cited as potentially one of those cases. This theory suggests a pattern, right? Young men, often college-aged, found drowned in bodies of water, usually after being out drinking. And the supposed link is smiley-face graffiti found near where the bodies are recovered.
But law enforcement doesn't really buy into that, do they?
Largely, no. Officially, many of these deaths are ruled accidental drownings, perhaps alcohol-related or suicides. The smiley-face connection is often dismissed as coincidence or urban legend. But the theory persists, particularly in online communities. It speaks to that need, maybe, to find a pattern, some explanation when faced with multiple, similar, unexplained deaths.
Right, because random accidents can feel unsatisfying when they seem to cluster.
Precisely. So even now, over 2 decades later, what really happened to Chris Jenkins that Halloween night? It's still unknown, a real mystery.
That theory definitely adds another layer of unease. Okay, let's move to our next case. This one is truly bizarre. It feels almost surreal. We're talking about David Stone back in 1988.
But David Stone.
He was, by all accounts, doing really well. Successful stock market analyst, good career, seemed stable, well-adjusted. He did have an interest in the New Age movement, which might be relevant, maybe not.
Interesting background.
But then, just days before Halloween 1988, something snapped. Apparently, there was a really heated argument he had with a guest at his home. It reportedly got physical, which was completely out of character for him. Then he just left.
Just walked out.
Walked out and started walking along Highway 80 heading into the desert. And he was dressed completely wrong for it, for the cold weather.
Out into the desert, unprepared. That's strange.
Very. People saw him. A farmer found him wandering on his property, apparently muttering about being in search of the beast.
In search of the beast.
Okay. Then he just vanished. His car was found later, November 5th, off that same highway. Searchers started looking north from the car, and they found these strange constructions. 2 pyramids made out of rocks.
Rock pyramids.
Yeah, and they were surrounded by a triangle shape, also made of rocks, and next to one pyramid, his Rolex watch, just lying there.
Wow. Okay, that's incredibly specific.
It gets weirder. About 3 miles further north, etched into the dirt, they found a Fibonacci sequence. You know, that mathematical pattern.
Right, used in stock analysis sometimes.
Exactly. But this sequence was wrong. It ended in 10 instead of the proper 21. Bloodhounds were brought in. They tracked his scent for about 13 miles north along the highway from his car, and then, poof, lost the scent completely.
Just gone.
And his family later found this incredibly cryptic note inside his car. It read, "They think the word is in the safe. 6 knives in Rob's room. Use buys your tea and use take your chances Halloween." Just, what does that even mean?
That is baffling. Just a collection of seemingly random phrases tied to Halloween. So what was the final outcome here?
It took 4 years. In 1992, hikers out in the desert stumbled upon skeletal remains. They were identified as David Stone.
So they found him. But did that bring any answers?
That's the truly perplexing part. Even finding his remains didn't solve anything. There was no sign of foul play, no obvious cause of death determined from the bones. What caused that sudden, bizarre behavior? Was it a mental breakdown? Something else? And how did he actually die out there? We still don't know.
It just leaves you with more questions than answers. The clues, the behavior, the note, none of it adds up to a clear picture, a genuine enigma.
It really is a deeply tragic and baffling case connected to that Halloween period. Okay, from the utterly inexplicable, let's turn to something that has a different kind of horror, a pattern, a terrifying one.
Right.
This involves a very young child, Nima Louise Carter. She was just 19 months old in 1977. On Halloween night that year, her parents put her in her crib to sleep, like any parent would.
Oh.
The next morning, she was gone, missing from her crib.
Oh, every parent's worst nightmare.
Absolutely horrific. The search went on for a month, and then the discovery. It's just sickening. Some kids were playing in an abandoned house only 4 blocks from the Carter home. They opened an old refrigerator in the house. Inside, they found Nima's body, decomposed. The cause of death was suffocation.
Oh, God. In a refrigerator. That's monstrous.
It is. And what makes this even more disturbing is that something chillingly similar had happened in the same town just the year before, April 1976.
Another case.
Yes. Twin sisters, Mary and Tina, they were 3 years old. They were lured away from their home by a young woman, taken to another abandoned house, forced inside a refrigerator there too.
Twins. Oh, no.
When they were found 2 days later, Mary had died of suffocation. But Tina, her sister, she survived. And crucially, Tina was able to identify the person who abducted them. A local teenage babysitter named Jacqueline Robideau.
She identified her, so they caught her.
Well, that's where it gets complicated. In that first case with the twins, Tina was obviously very young. Her testimony was considered unreliable by the standards back then, and there wasn't enough other evidence to charge Robideau at the time.
So she wasn't charged for the first incident.
Not initially. And here's the truly horrifying connection. Jacqueline Robideau later became Nima Louise Carter's babysitter.
Wait, she babysat Nima after the incident with the twins?
Yes. So, naturally, after Nima was found murdered in that refrigerator, Robideau was the prime suspect, obvious suspect.
Absolutely.
But again, same problem. Despite the intense suspicion, the parallel crimes, there wasn't enough direct evidence linking her to Nima's death specifically to secure a conviction at that time.
Unbelievable. So what happened with Robideau?
Years went by. But eventually, with changes in how child testimony was viewed and maybe a re-examination of everything, Robideau was finally charged and convicted for the murder of the first twin, Mary. She got a life sentence. So justice, at least partially.
Partially, yes. Jacqueline Robideau died in prison in 2005 from liver cancer. But she never, ever admitted to killing Nima Louise Carter. So Nima's murder technically remains unsolved. It's a chilling example of how, even when you strongly suspect who is responsible, the legal requirements for proof can leave a case open, leaving a family without full closure.
Just agonizing for Nima's family. Okay, one final case for today. This one takes us back even further to Halloween 1955, East Meadow, New York.
1955. Okay.
A mother, Marilyn Diamond, she's going to the supermarket. She has her 2 young children with her, Stephen, who's 2 years old, and Pamela, just 7 months old, in her baby carriage.
Right.
She gets to the supermarket. It's busy. She decides to let Stephen wait just inside the entrance with Pamela, who's asleep in the carriage, while she quickly does her shopping. Just for a few minutes, she thought.
Okay, a quick errand.
But when she comes back, maybe 10 minutes later, the entrance area is empty. Both Stephen and the carriage with Pamela are gone.
Both gone. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Panic, obviously. A desperate search starts immediately, and very quickly they find the carriage. It's about 1.5 blocks away from the supermarket.
And Pamela?
Pamela is still inside, safe, unharmed, miraculous, really. But Stephen is gone.
Yeah.
Vanished without a trace, and he has never been seen or heard from since that day.
Just disappeared. Wow. With infant abductions like that, what's the usual thinking?
Well, a common theory in cases where very young children are taken is that the kidnapper might be someone, often a woman, who desperately wants a child of their own.
Right, the idea that they might raise the child as their own under a new name.
Exactly, integrating them into a new life. Maybe the child never even knows they were abducted.
So could Stephen Diamond still be out there, living under a different name, completely unaware of his real family?
That's the heartbreaking possibility that lingers, and it's something investigators have tried to resolve using modern technology. DNA testing has become key.
Have there been any potential matches?
There have been attempts. At one point, investigators saw a possible resemblance between photos of young Stephen and the famous boy in the box, another tragic unsolved case from Philadelphia around that time.
I know that case. Was there a link?
No. DNA testing eventually proved they were not the same person. Then, much more recently, in 2009, a man from Michigan named John Barnes came forward. He had this feeling, this belief, that he might actually be Stephen Diamond.
He thought he could be him.
Yeah, based on some personal feelings and maybe circumstantial details in his own life. But again, DNA testing was done, and unfortunately, it ruled him out too. He was not Stephen Diamond.
So no confirmed leads through DNA so far?
Not yet. So the possibility remains. Stephen Diamond, if he is alive today, would be, born in 53. So he'd be around 71 now. He could be living a completely different life under a different name with no idea about his origins or the family that lost him on that Halloween day back in 1955. His whereabouts remain unknown, one of the longest running, most unsettling cold cases.
Just vanished into thin air. It's deeply disturbing.
It really is. So as we look back at these 5 cases, Marvin Brandland, Chris Jenkins, David Stone, Nima Louise Carter, Stephen Diamond, the thread connecting them is chillingly clear. For these individuals, for their families, Halloween wasn't about treats. It was the start of unanswered questions, unending grief, and search for answers that, for most, never came.
Mm-hmm. It really drives home how something meant to be lighthearted can become the backdrop for such profound darkness and mystery. These cases remind us how fragile normalcy can be.
Absolutely. And they highlight that deep human need we have for closure, for answers, and the unsettling truth that sometimes stories just don't get an ending. They remain open, haunting questions.
And that lack of resolution is perhaps the most chilling part of all. It emphasizes the importance of remembering these cases, of keeping the search for answers alive, even decades later. Staying aware, stay curious.
Well said. How do these unsolved cases continue to resonate, continue to haunt us, reminding us that sometimes the biggest mysteries are the ones left unsolved? Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this. Well, this rather somber deep dive into these Halloween mysteries. We hope you'll join us again next time as we explore the insights hidden within news sources.
Until then.
And hey, if you found this discussion compelling, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs. It helps us keep bringing these stories to light. Thanks for listening.